My son handed me a $15,000 check and said I didn't need much anyway. I'm Eddie Taylor, 68 years old, and I've been building Austin for 3 decades. See, Derek thought he was giving his old man a generous severance package. He figured the maintenance guy who married into the business didn't deserve much more. What he didn't know was that every major construction project in this city runs through relationships I built with my own hands. And when you mess with a man's life's work, sometimes those relationships decide to remind you who really built this town. I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I just smiled and said, "Thank you, son. This should be very interesting. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from." Because what happened next at the city planning meeting changed everything Derek thought he knew about power, respect, and his old man. Let me tell you how my own son learned to see me as nothing more than hired help. It started 3 months after my Margaret passed. Breast cancer took her in February, and by May, Derek was already talking about modernizing the family business. See, Margaret had founded Taylor Construction back in 1994. Smart woman. Built it from nothing while I handled the actual building part. Derek came home from his MBA program with big plans. First thing he did was move the office from our garage to some glass tower downtown. 15th floor, $200,000 conference table. City view that cost more per month than most folks make in a year. "Dad, you don't understand modern business," he'd say. "This isn't the 1990s anymore." The first time I really felt it was at his investor dinner last September. Fancy place downtown. Derek's wearing his $500 suit, talking to these venture capital types about his vision for Austin development. I show up in my work boots and flannel shirt, same clothes I'd worn to job sites for 30 years. "Oh, this is my father," Derek says to his girlfriend and her friends. "He's kind of our maintenance guy. Keeps the old projects running. Maintenance guy. 30 years of marriage to the woman who built this company, and I'm the maintenance guy." But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how everyone just nodded along, like it made perfect sense. Old guy in work clothes equals maintenance. Young guy in expensive suit equals business owner. Derek's girlfriend, some marketing consultant named Ashley, actually patted my arm and said, "That's so sweet that Derek takes care of you." Like I was some charity case he'd picked up. I just smiled. Said, "Yes, Derek takes very good care of me." The second time hit harder. Company Christmas party, December 2023. Derek had invited all his new business contacts. City councilors, bank executives, other developers. Real Austin power players. I'm standing by the punch bowl when Derek starts his speech. Big presentation about Taylor Development's success story. "When I took over this company," he says, "it was just a small contracting operation. My father didn't really understand the business side. I built our current client base from nothing. Built from nothing. Like Margaret never existed. Like the relationships I'd been nurturing since before Derek was born just appeared out of thin air." The room applauds. Someone asks Derek how he managed to connect with so many major contractors so quickly. "Natural business instincts," he says. "You have to understand how to speak their language." I'm watching from the back, and I notice something interesting. 3 of the men Derek's talking about are standing right there. Tom Williams from Williams Construction, Big Mike from Austin Commercial, Joey Martinez from Martinez Brothers. They're all looking at me. Not at Derek. At me. Tom gives me this little nod. Mike raises his beer bottle in my direction. Joey just smiles. Derek doesn't notice. He's too busy explaining how he revolutionized the family business through strategic networking. That's when I started to understand what was really happening. Derek didn't just see me as the maintenance guy. He genuinely believed I was the maintenance guy. In his mind, he'd inherited a small operation and turned it into an empire through his own genius. He had no idea that every single contract he was bragging about came through relationships I'd built one conversation at a time over 25 years. The man thought he was a self-made success story. What he actually was a front man who didn't know he was fronting. But I wasn't ready to tell him that yet. Sometimes people need to dig their hole a little deeper before they're ready to climb out. And Derek was just getting started with the shovel. The property transfer happened on a Tuesday morning in March. I was still recovering from my heart surgery, barely 2 weeks out of the hospital. Derek walked into my kitchen with a stack of legal papers and that $15,000 check. "Dad, we need to talk about your financial future," he says, spreading documents across Margaret's old oak table. The same table where she used to do payroll every Friday night for 23 years. "The property is worth $1.2 million now," Derek continues. But you're getting older. Health problems. You don't need to worry about maintenance and taxes and all that stress. He slides the check across the table. This should cover your expenses for a good long while. And you can stay in the house, of course. Think of it as simplified ownership. Simplified ownership. That's what he called stealing my life's work. The property wasn't just $1.2 million in real estate. It was Margaret's legacy. The woman had mortgaged this land in 1994 to start Taylor Construction. She'd worked 16-hour days answering phones while pregnant with Derek, building client relationships while I built their actual projects. Every square foot of that property represented something she'd sacrificed for. The garage where we ran the business for 15 years. The workshop where I still keep 30 years of project photos. The garden where she used to plan our next job while tending her tomatoes. Derek was asking me to sign away my wife's memory for $15,000. Son, I said, this seems a little fast. Maybe we should... Dad, I've already talked to the lawyers. Everything's set up. The transfer protects you from liability issues, tax benefits. It's really the smart play. The papers were already filled out. Derek Taylor, primary owner. Edward Taylor, lifetime occupancy rights, like I was a tenant in my own home. What about the business side? I asked. The company relationships? Derek waved his hand. That's all handled through the corporate structure now. Don't worry about the business stuff, Dad. That's not really your area. Not my area. The man was telling me that business relationships weren't my area. I looked at those papers and realized what Derek really believed. He thought he was doing me a favor. In his mind, he was protecting his confused old father from complicated financial responsibility. He had no idea he was about to destroy the foundation of everything he thought he'd built. There's a 48-hour cooling-off period, Derek explains. But honestly, Dad, this is the right move. You'll see. I signed the papers. Not because I agreed, but because I suddenly understood how deep Derek's delusion ran. And sometimes the only way to wake someone up is to let them experience the full consequences of their assumptions. That night, I sat in my workshop looking through Margaret's old files. Business cards from 1995, thank you notes from contractors, photos from groundbreaking ceremonies where Derek was still in diapers. Every relationship Derek thought he'd built. I could trace back to a specific conversation, a specific favor, a specific moment of trust earned over decades. Tom Williams. I'd helped his son get into the electricians union in 2001. Samuel Johnson at First National Bank. We'd played poker every Thursday for 24 years. Maria Davis, City Council. I'd quietly supported her first campaign with cash donations and volunteer hours. Mike Anderson, Austin Commercial. His father and I started in construction the same year. We'd watched each other's backs through 3 recessions. Derek thought business was about PowerPoint presentations and networking events. What Derek didn't understand was that real business happens in poker games and job sites and hospital waiting rooms. It happens when someone's kid needs work, or when someone's wife is sick, or when someone's company hits a rough patch and needs a reliable partner. You can't build that kind of trust in MBA school. You can't fake that kind of relationship with a firm handshake and a business card. But Derek was about to find that out the hard way, because in 46 hours the property would be legally his. The business would be legally his. And every contractor in Austin would be watching to see what kind of man Derek Taylor really was when he didn't have his old man's reputation protecting him. I had a feeling they weren't going to like what they saw. The 48-hour clock was ticking, and Derek had no idea he was about to face the first real test of his entire business career, a test I was pretty sure he was going to fail. The confrontation started Thursday morning with a simple question about the Morrison project. Derek was in the kitchen making coffee and checking his phone, acting like he owned the place, which legally he did now. Son, I said, Tom Williams called yesterday about the Morrison site. Says there's a concrete issue. Derek barely looked up. I'll handle it. What did you tell him? I said we'd figure it out. Dad, you don't need to worry about day-to-day operations anymore. I poured my own coffee. Slow, quiet. What's the concrete issue? Derek finally looked at me. Some technical thing. Foundation specs, maybe. I don't know the details yet. Which foundation specs? I said I don't know yet. I'll call Tom back when I have time. I nodded. When's the last time you talked to Tom? I talk to Tom all the time. When? Derek set down his coffee cup a little too hard. Dad, what is this? 20 questions? Just curious. You've been running that project for 6 months. Figured you'd know Tom pretty well by now. I know Tom fine. What's his son's name? Derek stared at me. What? Tom's son. The one who works for Austin Electric. What's his name? Why would I know that? Just wondering. You said you know Tom fine. Most business relationships, you get to know the family eventually. Dad, this is ridiculous. I don't need to know every contractor's personal life to do business. I sipped my coffee. How about Samuel Johnson? What about him? He called Tuesday, said he needed to discuss the Morrison financing. Did you call him back? Derek's jaw tightened. I've been busy. Busy with what? Business stuff, meetings, presentations, actual business development. What kind of presentations? Strategic planning, market analysis, stuff you wouldn't understand. I smiled. Try me. Dad, no offense, but you're from a different generation. The construction business has changed. It's not just about showing up with tools and building things anymore. What's it about now? Relationships, strategic partnerships, understanding market dynamics. Relationships, I repeated. Like with Tom Williams? Yes, exactly. But you don't know his son's name. Derek slammed his cup down. This is insane. I don't need to know every personal detail to have a business relationship. I kept my voice calm. Tommy Williams, Jr., graduated UT Electrical Engineering, 2003, works for Austin Electric now, but he started as an apprentice with his dad's crew. Tom got him into the union because I wrote a recommendation letter. Derek went quiet. Samuel Johnson's daughter graduated from Austin High, same class as you. Emma Johnson. You probably knew her. Sam helped fund the new gymnasium that year because I asked him to consider it. Derek was staring at me now. Mike Anderson's father died in 2018. Heart attack on a job site. I was one of the pallbearers. Mike took over the business, but he struggled the first year, almost went bankrupt. I helped him get a bridge loan through Samuel's bank. Dad, Joey Martinez's oldest boy got arrested for drunk driving in 2019. Good kid, just made a stupid mistake. I knew the judge, had a word. Kid got community service instead of jail time. Derek's face had gone pale. Maria Davis ran for city council 3 times before she won. 3rd time I organized the construction union endorsement. Also donated $4,000 to her campaign. Personal donation, not company money. Stop. Which brings us back to Tom Williams and the Morrison project. The concrete issue isn't technical, son. It's political. City inspectors giving Tom trouble because somebody complained about noise ordinances. Tom needs someone to make a call, smooth things over. Derek was gripping his coffee cup with both hands. He called here because Tom Williams doesn't know Derek Taylor, the businessman. Tom Williams knows Eddie Taylor, who helped his son get work, who played poker with his father for 20 years, who showed up to his mother's funeral with flowers and a casserole. Dad, You want to handle it? Great. Here's Tom's number. I slid a business card across the table. Tell him you'll take care of the inspector problem. Tell him you'll make the call. Derek picked up the card. His hand was shaking slightly. While you're at it, call Samuel Johnson back. He's waiting to hear about the Morrison financing. Bank's got some questions about project management experience. Specifically, your project management experience. I stood up. I'm going to the workshop. You handle those calls. I was at the door when Derek finally spoke. Who else knows? I turned around. Knows what? About the relationships? How many people know that I what, son? Derek couldn't say it. Couldn't admit out loud that his entire business existed because of his old man's connections. Everyone knows Derek. Every contractor, every banker, every city official. They all know exactly who built the relationships you've been taking credit for. I walked to the door. But don't worry, I haven't told them about the property transfer yet. I paused. Yet. The word hung in the air between us like a threat, because Derek was starting to realize that being the legal owner of Eddie Taylor's property was very different from being Eddie Taylor. And in the construction business, reputation isn't something you can transfer with a signature. It's something you earn one relationship at a time over decades. Derek was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The phone calls started that same afternoon. I was in my workshop, organizing 30 years of project photos when I heard Derek's voice through the kitchen window. He was on the phone with Tom Williams. Tom, hey, it's Derek Taylor, about that Morrison project. Long pause. No, my father mentioned you called, but I wanted to handle it personally. Another pause. Longer this time. Right, the inspector situation. I'm confident we can work something out. Even longer pause. I understand you usually deal with, yes, I know my father has handled these things before, but... The conversation went on for 20 minutes. Even from the workshop, I could hear the frustration in Derek's voice. At 3:30, my phone rang. Eddie? Tom Williams. You got a minute? Always got time for you, Tom. What's up? Your boy called me about the Morrison concrete. I figured he would. Eddie, no disrespect to Derek, but he doesn't know Inspector Martinez from a hole in the ground. This ain't a problem you solve with paperwork and phone calls. I know, Tom. Martinez is old school. He respects people who've earned it. Your son... Hell, Eddie, he's a good kid, but he's never worked a day on an actual construction site. I sat down on my workshop stool. What do you need, Tom? Same thing I always need when there's a city problem. Your voice. Martinez knows you, trusts you. You make the call. This whole thing disappears. And if Derek makes the call? Tom was quiet for a moment. Eddie, you know I love you like a brother, but your son just spent 15 minutes explaining to me how business relationships work in the modern economy. Despite everything, I almost laughed. He did what? Gave me a whole speech about strategic partnerships and market dynamics. Kid tried to teach me my own business. Tom, Martinez is going to eat him alive, Eddie. You know how Carlos gets with people who think they're smarter than everyone else. I did know. Inspector Martinez had been on the job for 22 years. He'd seen every kind of developer, contractor, and businessman Austin had to offer. He had zero patience for people who talked down to working folks. I'll handle it, I said. You sure? I mean, Derek seemed pretty determined to... I'll handle it, Tom. After I hung up, the workshop phone rang again. Eddie Taylor. Eddie, it's Sam Johnson. Samuel Johnson. Bank president, poker partner, financial backbone of half the construction projects in Austin. Sam, good to hear from you. Got time to talk? Derek called me about the Morrison financing. I leaned back in my chair. Yeah? Eddie, what the hell is going on over there? What do you mean? Your son just spent 30 minutes trying to convince me that he personally built relationships with every major contractor in Austin. Kid's talking like he invented the construction business. I didn't say anything. Then he starts asking about financing for some new project, something about expanding into tech development, mixed-use commercial properties. Wants to borrow against the Morrison contract. Borrow how much? $2 million. Says he's got guaranteed contracts lined up. My stomach dropped. Derek was trying to leverage other people's relationships to fund some completely new business venture. What did you tell him? I told him I'd need to see the contracts and talk to the contractors directly. Good. Eddie, he got upset when I said that. Started talking about business confidentiality and proprietary relationships, like I'm some small-town banker who doesn't understand sophisticated financial instruments. Sam was quiet for a moment. Eddie, I've been doing this for 28 years. I know every contractor in this city. Half of them owe their current success to loans I approved based on your recommendation. Your son just tried to convince me that he built those relationships himself. Sam, I'm not saying Derek's a bad kid, but he's got some seriously confused ideas about how business works around here. At 5:15, my phone rang a third time. Eddie, it's Maria Davis, city councilwoman, friend for 15 years. Maria, how are you? Confused, mostly. Derek called me about some zoning questions for a new development project. Uh-huh. Eddie, he introduced himself as the founder of Taylor Construction, said he'd built the company from nothing over the past 5 years. I closed my eyes. Then he started asking about fast-tracking permit applications, mentioned that he had significant influence with local construction unions. What did you tell him? I told him I'd need to verify his union relationships. You know, standard due diligence. Maria paused. Eddie, your son just claimed he organized the construction endorsement for my last campaign. The room went very quiet. That would be interesting, I said, since you and I know who actually organized that endorsement. That's why I'm calling. Derek wasn't just taking credit for my relationships. He was actively trying to use them as leverage for new business deals. The kid wasn't just confused about who built what. He was about to commit fraud. The investor presentation happened on a Friday afternoon at Derek's downtown office. I wasn't supposed to be there. Derek had made it clear that this was a sophisticated business environment where modern investment strategies would be discussed. Translation, no old men in work boots allowed. But Tom Williams had called that morning. Eddie, you might want to see this. Derek's invited half the construction industry to some big presentation. Claims he's announcing major expansion plans. What kind of expansion? Mixed-use developments, tech campus integration, high-end stuff. But Eddie, he's using our names, says he's got partnerships locked in. Tom paused. Problem is, nobody he's naming has agreed to anything. So I drove downtown, parked my 20-year-old pickup truck between Derek's Tesla and a row of BMWs. Took the elevator to the 15th floor. The conference room was packed. 30-plus people in suits, sitting around that $200,000 table. I recognized most of them. City officials, bank executives, contractors, a few developers I'd worked with over the years. I slipped in the back, found a chair against the wall. Derek didn't notice me. He was too focused on his PowerPoint presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Derek says, clicking to his first slide, "welcome to the future of Austin development." The slide read, "Taylor Development, 5 years of strategic growth." 5 years. Derek had been running the business for 18 months. "When I founded Taylor Construction in 2019, Derek continues, Austin was ready for a new approach to commercial development. Founded in 2019. Margaret had started the company in 1994. I looked around the room. Tom Williams was staring at Derek with his mouth slightly open. Samuel Johnson was taking notes, but his expression was skeptical. Maria Davis looked confused. Derek clicked to the next slide. Strategic Partnership Network. The screen showed logos for 12 major construction companies. Williams Construction, Austin Commercial, Martinez Brothers, Johnson Banking Group. All companies I'd worked with for decades. Through innovative relationship management, Derek says, I've built exclusive partnerships with Austin's leading construction firms. Exclusive partnerships. These men didn't have partnerships with Derek. They had relationships with me. Derek spent the next 20 minutes explaining how his natural business instincts and modern networking strategies had created what he called the most connected development firm in Austin. Then he got to the big reveal. Based on these established relationships, Derek says, Taylor Development is announcing a $50 million mixed-use project on the Morrison site. Residential towers, commercial space, and Austin's first fully integrated tech campus. $50 million. Derek was announcing a project that didn't exist, using relationships that weren't his, with money he didn't have. This project represents the future of Austin development, Derek continues, and it's only possible because of the trust and partnerships I've built over the past 5 years. That's when Mike Anderson stood up. Derek, can I ask you something? Of course, Mike. You mentioned exclusive partnerships. When did we discuss exclusivity? Derek's smile flickered. Well, Mike, our ongoing relationship implies... Because I don't recall signing any exclusivity agreements. In fact, I don't recall having any significant business conversations with you at all. The room got quiet. Derek's face was turning red. Mike, we've worked together on multiple projects. No, Derek, Austin Commercial has worked with Taylor Construction. On projects managed by your father. Derek looked around the room. Several people were nodding in agreement. Samuel Johnson cleared his throat. Derek, about this $50 million financing, have you submitted formal loan applications? The financing is in development, based on our established banking relationships, because First National hasn't received any applications for projects of this scope, and frankly, Derek, a project this size would require extensive collateral review. Derek was losing control of the room. Maria Davis spoke up. Derek, you mentioned zoning approvals for the Morrison site. The city hasn't received any applications for mixed-use development on that property. The applications are being prepared. By whom? Because our records show the Morrison site is still zoned for standard commercial construction. Derek was sweating now. These are preliminary discussions. The formal paperwork... Derek! Tom Williams' voice cut through the room. Stop. Everyone turned to look at Tom. Son, I've been in this business for 30 years. I know the difference between partnerships and pipe dreams. Tom stood up. You don't have exclusive partnerships. You don't have $50 million in financing. You don't have zoning approvals. What you have is a presentation full of lies. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But you know what you do have, Tom continued. You have your father's reputation, every relationship you just claimed to build. Eddie Taylor built those relationships. Every contractor who takes your calls, they're doing it out of respect for Eddie. The room was dead silent now. And Eddie Taylor, Tom said, looking directly at me in the back of the room, would never make promises he couldn't keep. Every head in the room turned toward me. Derek followed their gaze. When he saw me sitting there, his face went completely white. Dad, his voice cracked. What are you... How long have you been... I stood up slowly, walked to the front of the room. Derek, I said quietly, we need to talk. Dad, this is a private business meeting. No, son, this is a public embarrassment. I looked around the room at 30 years of relationships. These weren't just business contacts. These were friends, people who'd trusted me, worked with me, built Austin alongside me for decades. I want everyone here to know, I said, that Taylor Construction has never promised a $50 million development project. We have never claimed exclusive partnerships with anyone, and Derek does not speak for this company. Derek was staring at me like I'd just set him on fire. Furthermore, I continued, any business relationships Derek has referenced today exist between these firms and me personally, not Derek. Me. I turned to face Derek directly. Son, you just lied to every important business leader in Austin. You claimed credit for relationships you didn't build, promised projects you can't deliver, and announced financing you don't have. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Worst of all, I said, you did it using my reputation as collateral. I looked back at the room. I apologize to everyone here. This presentation does not represent Taylor Construction's actual business practices or capabilities. I walked toward the door. Meeting adjourned. As I left, I could hear Derek behind me trying desperately to salvage the situation. Wait, everyone, please. Let me explain. This is just a misunderstanding. But the room was already emptying. 30 years of relationships walking out on Derek's first big presentation. Because in the construction business, your word is everything. And Derek had just proven his word was worth nothing. The city planning meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, 2 p.m. Derek's Morrison project needed final approval. I wasn't planning to attend. After the investor presentation disaster, Derek and I hadn't spoken in 4 days. He'd been avoiding me, staying late at the office, coming home after I was asleep. But Samuel Johnson called Monday night. Eddie, you need to be at that planning meeting tomorrow. Why? Because Derek submitted a formal development application, $50 million, mixed-use commercial with residential towers. I sat down hard. Sam, we talked about this. There's no financing. Eddie, he used the Morrison contract as collateral, claims Taylor Construction has guaranteed partnerships worth $12 million in foundation work. My blood went cold. Derek was trying to leverage Tom Williams's legitimate contract to fund his fantasy project. There's more, Sam continued. He listed you as the primary contractor relationship manager, claims you've already negotiated subcontractor agreements. Derek was using my name to commit fraud. Sam, Eddie, if this application gets approved, you're legally responsible for delivering those partnerships. And if the project fails, the bank can seize the Morrison property as collateral. Margaret's land, the foundation of everything we'd built. I'll be there, I said. Tuesday afternoon, Austin City Hall, Conference Room B. The Planning Commission meets here every week to review development applications, usually boring stuff, parking permits, zoning variances, minor commercial expansions. Today was different. Derek had requested a full presentation. He'd invited the press. Austin Business Journal was there. A photographer from the city website. Derek was treating this like his comeback moment. I arrived 15 minutes early and took a seat in the back. The room filled up quickly. Commission members, city staff, a handful of local developers checking out the competition. Then I noticed something interesting. Tom Williams walked in and sat 3 rows ahead of me. Then Mike Anderson. Then Joey Martinez. Samuel Johnson took a seat near the front. Maria Davis was already at the commission table, but she was looking around the room like she was expecting something to happen. By 2 p.m., half the Austin construction industry was sitting in that conference room. Derek walked in at exactly 2 p.m., carrying a laptop and a stack of presentation materials. He was wearing his most expensive suit, the one he'd bought for the investor meeting. His confidence was back. He still hadn't noticed me. Commission Chair Williams gavelled the meeting to order. Next item, application PL 2024-0892, mixed-use development Morrison site. Presenter Derek Taylor, Taylor Development. Derek walked to the front, connected his laptop to the projector. Same PowerPoint from the investor meeting, but updated. Commission members, ladies and gentlemen, Derek began. I'm here to present Austin's most ambitious development project of 2024. Same opening, same slides. Same lies. Taylor Development has secured exclusive partnerships with Austin's leading construction firms, Derek continues. These relationships, built over 5 years of strategic networking, guarantee project success. I watched the faces in the room. Tom Williams was shaking his head. Mike Anderson was writing notes. Samuel Johnson looked like he was calculating how much money Derek was about to lose. Derek clicked through his partnership slides. Williams Construction, Austin Commercial, Martinez Brothers, all presented as exclusive strategic partners. Based on these established relationships, Derek says, we're requesting expedited approval for a $50 million mixed-use development. Commission Chair Williams interrupted. Mr. Taylor, these partnership claims are quite substantial. Do you have documentation? All partnerships are formalized through our established business relationships, Derek replied. Taylor Construction has worked with these firms for years. Mr. Taylor, Chair Williams said, could you clarify your role in establishing these relationships? Derek smiled. I founded Taylor Construction 5 years ago. All partnership agreements flow through my direct negotiations with firm principals. That's when Tom Williams stood up. Excuse me, Chair Williams. I'm Tom Williams, Williams Construction. I'd like to address the commission. Derek's face went pale. Tom, this isn't really the appropriate time. Actually, Derek, this is exactly the appropriate time. Chair Williams nodded. Mr. Williams, you have the floor. Tom walked to the front of the room. Commission members, Williams Construction is not in an exclusive partnership with Taylor Development. We have never signed any partnership agreements with Derek Taylor. Our business relationship is with Eddie Taylor, Derek's father. Derek started to interrupt. Tom, that's not... Furthermore, Tom continued, Derek Taylor did not found Taylor Construction 5 years ago. The company was founded in 1994 by Margaret Taylor and built through the relationship management of Eddie Taylor. The room erupted in whispers. Chair Williams banged the gavel. Order. Mr. Williams, are you saying these partnership claims are inaccurate? Completely inaccurate. Derek Taylor has no authority to speak for Williams Construction. Mike Anderson stood up. Same for Austin Commercial. No partnership, no agreements, no authority. Samuel Johnson stood. First National Bank has not approved financing for this project. The loan application contains false information about contractor relationships. Derek was looking around the room desperately. Wait, everyone just... That's when Maria Davis spoke from the commission table. Mr. Taylor, these are serious allegations. Do you have any documentation to support your partnership claims? Derek fumbled with his laptop. The documentation is... These are established business relationships. I have years of correspondence. Mr. Taylor, Chair Williams said, are these men lying about their business relationships with you? Derek couldn't answer. He was trapped between admitting fraud and calling 30 years of Austin construction leaders liars. That's when I stood up. Chair Williams, may I address the commission? Everyone turned. Derek saw me and his last bit of composure cracked. Dad, what are you doing here? My name is Eddie Taylor, I said, walking to the front. I'm Derek's father and the actual founder of Taylor Construction. I turned to face the room. Tom Williams is telling the truth. So is Mike Anderson. So is Samuel Johnson. Derek has no partnerships because Derek has never built any business relationships in this city. Derek was shaking his head. Dad, stop. Please. Every contractor Derek mentioned in his presentation works with Taylor Construction because of relationships I built over 30 years. Derek has been taking credit for my work. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folder. I have documentation of the real business relationships. Partnership agreements with Williams Construction dating to 2001. Banking relationships with First National going back 24 years. City contract correspondence from 1998 through last month. I handed the folder to Chair Williams. You'll find that every significant Taylor construction project has been managed through my relationships, not Derek's. Chair Williams opened the folder, scanned the documents. Furthermore, I continued, the Morrison site property deed was fraudulently transferred to Derek last month. I'm the legal owner of both the land and the business relationships required for any development. Derek collapsed into a chair. Chair Williams, I said, I'm formally objecting to this development application. Derek Taylor has no authority to represent Taylor Construction, no partnerships with the contractors mentioned, no approved financing, and no legal ownership of the project site. Chair Williams looked at Derek. Mr. Taylor, do you have any response to these allegations? Derek just stared at his laptop screen. Mr. Taylor? Derek looked up at me. His eyes were full of tears. Dad, I was just You were trying to steal 30 years of my life's work and use it to fund a project that would destroy everything Margaret built. The room was completely silent. Derek, I said softly, you want to build something? Learn how to build it yourself. Earn your own relationships. Make your own reputation. I looked at Chair Williams. I recommend this application be denied and that all parties be investigated for potential fraud. Chair Williams nodded. Application PL 2024-0892 is denied, Mr. Derek Taylor. The Commission is referring this matter to the City Attorney for review. Derek was crying now, but for the first time in months, I felt like his father again. The legal paperwork took exactly 6 hours to complete. By 8 p.m. Tuesday night, Derek's business empire had been systematically dismantled. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it to protect Margaret's legacy and prevent Derek from committing crimes in my name. Samuel Johnson met me at the bank at 3:30 p.m., right after the city planning meeting. Eddie, we need to move fast. Derek's already tried to access the Morrison Project funds. If he withdraws money based on fraudulent partnership claims, this becomes a federal banking issue. Sam handed me a stack of documents. I've prepared partnership dissolution notices for all the companies Derek mentioned. Sign these, and we can freeze any transactions until the legal situation is resolved. I signed 12 documents in 15 minutes. Tom Williams arrived at 4 p.m. with his lawyer. Eddie, I talked to the other guys. Williams Construction, Austin Commercial, Martinez Brothers. We're all prepared to submit statements clarifying our actual business relationships. Tom's lawyer, a sharp woman named Jennifer Davis, spread contracts across Sam's desk. Mr. Taylor, we've reviewed Derek's claims. He's essentially committed contract fraud by promising partnerships that don't exist. The liability exposure is significant. What do you need from me? Legal documentation of the actual relationship structures. Who has authority to negotiate contracts? Who owns the business relationships? Who has the right to represent Taylor Construction? I spent an hour signing documents that established what everyone in the room already knew. Eddie Taylor was Taylor Construction. Derek had been a frontman with no real authority. At 5:30, Maria Davis arrived with city legal documents. Eddie, the city attorney, wants to fast-track the property transfer reversal. Derek's fraud application created liability issues for the city. If we approved a project based on false information, Austin could face lawsuits. More paperwork, property deed transfers, business registration corrections, legal notifications to Derek that his corporate authority was terminated. By 6 p.m., Derek Taylor no longer owned Taylor Construction, the Morrison property, or any authority to negotiate contracts in the Taylor name. At 6:15, Derek walked into the bank. He looked terrible. Suit wrinkled, hair messy, eyes red from crying. He'd spent the last 4 hours trying to figure out how to fix what had happened at the city meeting. "Dad?" he said when he saw me at Sam's desk. "What are you doing here?" "Cleaning up your mess, son." Derek looked around the room. Tom Williams, Mike Anderson, Samuel Johnson, Maria Davis, 2 lawyers, and stacks of legal documents. "What is all this?" I gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Derek." He sat. "Derek, in the past 6 hours, I've dissolved every business relationship you claim to own. I've reverted the Morrison property deed back to my name. I've terminated your legal authority to represent Taylor Construction." Derek's mouth opened, but no words came out. "Williams Construction has formally stated they have no partnership with you. Austin Commercial has submitted similar documentation. Martinez Brothers, Anderson Development, all the companies you claimed as partners, they've all clarified that their relationships are with me, not you." "Dad, I can explain." "Derek, you tried to commit a $12 million fraud using my reputation as collateral." I handed him a folder. "These are the bank records. You attempted to access Morrison Project funds this afternoon. You tried to withdraw $40,000 based on partnership agreements that don't exist." Samuel Johnson leaned forward. "Derek, that's bank fraud. Federal charges." Derek was shaking. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You no longer own Taylor Construction. You no longer own the Morrison property. You no longer have any authority to negotiate contracts or represent the Taylor name." "Dad, you can't." "It's done, son. Every document is signed. Every partnership is clarified. Every legal authority is reverted to me." Tom Williams spoke up. "Derek, you're lucky we're handling this privately. What you did today could have resulted in criminal charges." Derek looked around the room desperately. "But I was just trying to build something. I was trying to grow the business." "You were trying to steal something," I said quietly. "There's a difference." I pulled out one more document. "Derek, I'm offering you something." He looked up hopefully. "A job, apprentice project manager, Taylor Construction. $45,000 a year starting salary. You'll work on actual construction sites, learn actual relationship building, and earn actual business knowledge." Derek stared at the employment contract. "You'll report directly to Tom Williams for the first year. Learn how construction actually works. No office, no suits, no presentations. just work boots and hard hats. Dad, it's the only offer you're going to get, son. Every other construction company in Austin knows what happened today. No one else will hire you. Derek was quiet for a long time. If I take this job, he finally said, what happens to Taylor Development? Taylor Development never existed. It was just you using my name and relationships without permission. And the Morrison Project? Tom Williams answered. The Morrison Project continues under Williams Construction Management, with Eddie Taylor as relationship coordinator. Legitimate project, legitimate partnerships, legitimate financing. Derek looked at the employment contract again. Do I have a choice? I looked at my son, really looked at him for the first time in months. Derek, you always have a choice. You can take this job and learn how to build something real, or you can leave Austin and try to start over somewhere else. I paused. But if you stay, you do it my way, with respect, with honesty, with relationships earned, not stolen. Derek picked up the pen. I'll take the job. As he signed the contract, I realized something had changed between us. For the first time in 2 years, Derek was asking for my help instead of taking my credit. It was a start. The story hit Austin Business Journal 3 days later. Local development firm exposed in partnership fraud scheme ran as the lead story in Friday's print edition. The online version got 12,000 views in the first day. Derek's Tesla was repossessed Thursday morning. I watched from the kitchen window as the tow truck hauled it away from our driveway. Derek was already at his first day working for Tom Williams, so he missed the whole thing. His downtown office lease was terminated Friday. $200,000 conference table and all. The building manager called to ask if I wanted to retrieve any personal items. I drove over with my pickup truck. Derek's office had been cleared out except for a box of family photos and Margaret's old construction awards that he'd hung on his wall. I took the photos. Left the awards for the cleaning crew. By the weekend, Derek was back in his old bedroom at my house. His penthouse lease had been canceled when the bank froze his business accounts. Dad, he said Saturday morning, I don't understand how this happened so fast. We were sitting at Margaret's oak table, drinking coffee. Derek was wearing work boots for the first time since high school. Derek, reputation takes decades to build and minutes to destroy. You destroyed yours in one presentation. But people are acting like I'm some kind of criminal. Son, you committed fraud. The only reason you're not in jail is because I fixed it before any money actually changed hands. Derek was quiet for a while. Tom Williams says I have to work foundation pour for 6 months before he'll let me near any paperwork. Good. Dad, I have an MBA. I shouldn't be doing manual labor. I looked at Derek over my coffee cup. Son, do you know why Tom Williams has been successful for 30 years? Because I don't know, good business relationships? Because he knows every aspect of construction. Tom can read blueprints, manage budgets, negotiate contracts, and pour concrete. He earned his relationships by proving he understood the work. Derek was listening. Your MBA taught you how to make presentations. It didn't teach you how to build anything. But Dad, Derek, every man in that city planning meeting has spent years learning their trade. Tom Williams started as a laborer in 1995. Samuel Johnson worked as a bank teller before becoming president. Mike Anderson ran job sites for 15 years before taking over his father's business. I poured more coffee. You tried to skip 30 years of experience and go straight to the top. That's not how respect works. Derek nodded slowly. Tom says if I prove myself on job sites, I might be able to handle project coordination after a year. That's how careers are built, son. One skill at a time. Sunday morning, Maria Davis called with an update. Eddie, the city attorney, reviewed Derek's application. No criminal charges, but there's going to be a policy change. What kind of policy change? All major development applications now require verified contractor attestations. No more taking partnership claims at face value. Monday, Samuel Johnson called with the final banking report. Eddie, we've completed the account review. Derek attempted to access funds Friday afternoon, right after the planning meeting. If you hadn't moved so fast with the legal paperwork, he would have successfully withdrawn $62,000. $62,000? I thought he tried for 40. He escalated, made multiple withdrawal attempts throughout the afternoon. Kid was desperate. Tuesday morning, Austin Business Journal called for a follow-up interview. Mr. Taylor, how does it feel to know your son tried to steal your life's work? My son made mistakes, I said. Now he's learning to fix them. That's what families do. The reporter pressed. But aren't you angry about the fraud attempt? I'm disappointed in his choices, but I'm proud that he's taking responsibility now. What's next for Taylor Construction? Same thing that's been next for 30 years. We build things. We honor our commitments. We treat people with respect. And Derek? Derek is learning what that means. 6 months later, Derek looked like a different person. Work boots worn down from actual use. Hands calloused from handling rebar and concrete forms. Arms tanned from working construction sites all summer. He was sitting at Margaret's oak table, reviewing project schedules with Tom Williams. "Eddie," Tom said, "your boy's finally starting to get it." Derek had spent March learning foundation work, April on framing crews, May handling electrical installations, June managing material deliveries. "Tom says I might be ready for junior project manager next year," Derek said, "if I can prove myself on the Morrison job." The Morrison project had turned into Derek's education. Tom Williams used it as a teaching laboratory, showing Derek every aspect of legitimate construction management. "Derek coordinated the concrete delivery last week," Tom continued. "Showed up at 5 a.m., worked a 12-hour day, made sure every detail was handled right." "How'd it feel?" I asked Derek. "Hard work," Derek admitted, "but different. When the concrete pour was done, I could see what I'd accomplished. It was real." Derek was learning what I'd been trying to tell him for 2 years. Real satisfaction comes from building something that lasts, not from making presentations about things that don't exist. "Dad," Derek said, "I owe you an apology." "You've been apologizing for 6 months, son." "No, I mean a real apology. I understand now what I took from you. It wasn't just money or property. I took 30 years of your reputation and tried to use it for something you never built." I nodded. "What matters is that you understand the difference now." "I'm learning. Tom makes me call every subcontractor personally, introduce myself, explain my role, ask what they need from me. It's humbling." "That's how relationships start," Tom said. "One conversation at a time." Derek looked at me across the table. "Dad, I want to earn the right to use the Taylor name in business, but I want to earn it legitimately. How do you plan to do that? By building something worth respecting, by keeping my word, by treating people the way you taught me." I smiled. "Derek, you've always had the right to the Taylor name. You're my son, but now you're learning how to honor it. I won't disappoint you again, Dad." "Son, you never disappointed me. You just disappointed yourself." Derek was finally becoming the man I'd always hoped he could be. A man who understood that respect isn't inherited. It's earned. If this story resonated with you, let me know where you're watching from and share your own experience with family business or earning respect in the workplace. Because sometimes the most important lessons come from the people closest to us.